Welcome to Meteorologist Without Credentials. The title of this live stream is self-explanatory. A meteorologist with absolutely no credentials. I have not gone to school for meteorology, but just commenting on what I see that's available publicly online that anyone can get, and showing you how you can forecast storms on your own and be able to look for yourself at what weather to expect in the coming days or weeks. In particularly, I will be forecasting tropical cyclones that are around the globe and be checking the various water basins that are most common to producing hurricanes or tropical cyclones or typhoons, and looking at what the current GFS model is showing. That is the weather model that I use. You can use any of the other models that you could find and that are available online. I use the GFS. The information towards the latter part of the forecast is extremely likely to change. So please take anything that you see, especially towards the latter part, and just keep it in mind. But please note, if, for example, it shows a storm not hitting a certain area, in 5 days from now, in 2 days from now, the forecast might change to showing it making landfall, and vice versa. I am not too familiar with most countries' geography and the different areas of the countries. I might look at them on Google Maps using my phone, but if you live in these areas, you probably know a little better about the geography of the areas that I'm forecasting, so you can leave in the comments down below what those areas are if you know them. Please help spread this post, share it, subscribe, because even if you don't know anyone in this area, or if you don't live in this area, someone that you know that's on your friends list might know someone, and so therefore they will be able to get any warnings for tropical cyclones that might be heading in their area, or they might be able to learn for themselves how to forecast these storms so that way they could see them coming in the future. As a note on my forecasted impact areas, which I will show you when we get into the forecast, I use the highest wind speed to show the areas that are possibly going to get hit and by what strength wind. So for example, if the low estimate for the wind speed is 45 miles per hour and the high estimate is 95 miles per hour, the areas that are going to be on my forecasted list of impacted areas will be going off of the 95 mile per hour wind forecast. So if hypothetically a storm were to take the weaker end of that forecast, certain areas may not get winds as strong as previously forecasted. They will still be impacted, but perhaps not as strongly. So that's something to take into consideration and to judge for yourself. It's always best to prepare for the worst. You want to hope for the best, hope that no storm comes. But it's always better to prepare for the worst outcome, so that way if that does occur, you're not caught off guard in a dangerous situation. Now, if a system is a tropical depression and it's making landfall somewhere, the area is likely to experience little or no damage, depending on the rain. Minor damage is possible. Moderate damage is pretty unlikely. And major damage is very unlikely. Now, if you have a tropical storm equivalent strength system that is making landfall somewhere, then you will have the likelihood of minor damage in many areas and moderate damage possible in some areas. Major damage wouldn't be able to be ruled out for all areas, depending on, again, other factors such as rain and geography. These are factors that I'm not taking into consideration when I post the forecast on my Facebook page. I only use the wind speed. So there are other factors involved that might increase the amount of damage that a storm might have. That's why you'll see with a certain storm, minor damage likely, moderate damage possible, because I'm not taking into consideration the rain aspect and the geography aspect and the angle that the storm is coming in. On this forecast, I will be more detailed and we'll go into those things a little bit more, however. With a hurricane, if a hurricane makes landfall somewhere, you're likely to see moderate damage. Major damage is possible. Catastrophic damage cannot be ruled out. Again, depending on the other aspects of the storm and how big it is and all that other details. If a major hurricane, winds over 110 miles an hour, if a storm like that were to make landfall somewhere, major damage would be very likely just with the wind alone. Catastrophic damage would also be quite possible depending on the amount of rain that you would see and the angle that the storm is coming in and how big it is. Often with a storm of that strength, those factors will be in play. So definitely, if we ever have to forecast something like that, you should be definitely prepared. Any storm that's over 100 miles an hour, you should really be careful with. Anyways, let's get into the forecast. I use this website here that I have as a background as I do my introduction, and before I begin is earth.nullschool.net. This website that I use is tropicaltidbits.com. This is what I use to get the forecast models. This over here is a wind speed converter. I use this in order to convert the wind speed from knots into miles per hour. And if you're watching the live stream, you could see if you use a different measurement, you could see what the measurement equivalent is here. Over here, I use this website, wonderground.com/hurricane, to see what the, after I give my forecast, then I take a look at what the official weather forecasters are saying. And then this is the Saffir-Simpson scale. Again, I'm not a professional meteorologist, so I might refer to this just to see and confirm what the wind speed falls under, whether it's tropical depression, tropical storm, category 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5 hurricane equivalent, just based off wind speed. Again, there are other factors such as rain, size of the storm, air pressure, the angle that it's coming in, and a whole other 9 yards. So, without further ado, let's get into tropicaltidbits.com. Go to forecast models. So this, it defaultly shows the mainland United States, but we're going to go into hurricane. Actually, no. What we're going to do, alright, so doesn't necessarily mean it's a tropical storm or a hurricane. What we want to look at, I go into lower dynamic, and I go into this one here, Z700, Vort, and wind. This shows rotation in the atmosphere. I use this because what do hurricanes and tropical storms and tropical depressions and major hurricanes all have in common? They spin. So if we see an area of really well-defined spinning in the atmosphere, then we know that that's an area that we want to watch. Another factor we look at is how far north or how far south the storm is. Storms within this region from here to about here have the greatest chance of developing into tropical cyclones. Storms that are lower than this, there usually isn't enough spin in the atmosphere with the Coriolis effect to form a storm, although one can form if all the other factors are really strong. And up past, let's say, this point, north of here, the water is usually pretty cold. There are pockets right around here of warm water, depending on the time of year that a hurricane or tropical storm can strengthen a little bit. But for the most part, we want to look from 40 north down to about, I'd say right about here, just under 20 north. I believe that's longitude? Latitude? I don't know. See, I'm not a professional. That's why you shouldn't trust my forecast. But anyways, you can see it here. This is what you want to look for. And for the Atlantic, we're going to watch from here all the way to about here. Basically this region here. This is part of the Pacific, so we'll look at that later. If we see something, I might comment on it, but I'm not going to give a forecast on that right now. So let's click play on this and see if there's anything noteworthy that we need to watch. Rotation here is pretty broad, maybe a subtropical cyclone, but as of now, there's nowhere forecasting a tropical cyclone, and it's pretty far north for this time of year, so I don't expect it to develop, but something to keep an eye on. It is out to sea, so probably nothing incredibly to worry about, but again, something to keep an eye on. Don't see any other really distinct rotations to watch at this time, other than this one. But again, it's out to sea, it's fairly far north, and it's pretty colder still in this region for tropical cyclone development, so I'm not particularly worried about that bit of rotation. Okay, so it doesn't seem there's anything here. Let's go back to regions. We're going to take a closer look at the West Atlantic. If sometimes you miss something, just double checking in the Western Atlantic, in this region, in the Caribbean, just to see if there is anything that we missed. Seems mostly clear for the most part. Not saying there's no thunderstorms here. There may be rain and thunderstorms throughout this region, but this map is not for that. This is just for rotation in the atmosphere. Okay, so it doesn't seem like there is anything here as of now. Now let's go into regions again. Eastern Atlantic. So you're at 0, okay, good. And if anyone's here, please leave a comment. I'm watching the comment section from my phone, so I'll be able to see you. Just say hello if you're here. If you're watching this later, you can say hello. Okay, so I'm not really seeing anything. Let's speed this up a little bit. Okay, yeah, again, that's the only system that I would really watch, but I don't really expect it to develop, and if it does, there's no real land over here that needs to be overly concerned by it. Okay, so it seems clear for the next few days, although this is going all the way to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 days, so about 2 weeks in advance. The most reliable forecast will be up to 7 days, which would be right around here, I believe. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yep, 7 days. And even over here, this is very likely to change up until around this point. When you're at 72 hours, that's pretty much, the forecast is pretty set. The exact region might change a little bit to the north or a little bit to the south. The intensity might change a little bit, but you know something is going to happen in a general region when you're at the 72-hour mark. In most cases, from what I've seen anyway so far. So let's look at the Western Atlantic. This is one that we're watching. There's actually a tropical depression over here. It's fairly weak. You see something over here, but we're going to get to that when we get to the Indian Ocean. Let's just see if there's anything else going to develop. Again, this rotation isn't very strong. It's not a very strong system, but we're going to get to that system in a minute. Just checking to see if there's anything else that we need to watch, particularly in this region here and around here, or the areas that need to watch this time of year. Okay, so it seems like that's the only system. So we're going to go to hurricane, go to GFS, and that is 2. Tropical Depression 2. So we're at 0, 0. So for the low end forecast, okay, so let's see. Wind speed, max wind speed on the low end, 26.1. So I go over here, click on knots, 26.1, convert, and so miles per hour, 30 miles per hour, tropical depression, as that is what is showed by the real forecasters right now. Anyways, tropical depression. If we go to, we can look at rain too, why not? So we can see, even though the wind speed looks pretty low on the low end forecast, There is still some rain, heavy rain, particularly over this part of the Philippines, which, again, I don't live here, and I don't know the geography. If you know it, please leave a comment down below. I'm not going to embarrass myself trying to pronounce it. If you post it, I'll pronounce it. I'll try, if I'm live, but I don't think anyone in the Philippines in this area is here right now. But anyways, let's go into the high-end forecast. So this is the one, MSLP and 10M wind that I use for the low end. MSLP and 850 MB wind is what I use for the high-end forecast. And with this one, in the area where we saw the heavy rain, we do see an area of tropical storm force wind. The green and slightly yellow is tropical storm force. This area here is the color coding to show wind speed. And you can also look over here for what the max wind speed is. This one is 40.8 knots. So we're going to come over here, 40.8. That puts it at 47. So when I do this on the forecast, since I'm rounding it to a 5 or a 10, with that low end I lower it down. With the high end I round it up. So 47 on my high-end forecast, I would put it as 50 mile per hour winds. That would put it at a tropical storm, mid-strength tropical storm, or mid-range, or yeah, tropical depression or mid-range tropical storm. So you're looking at a very weak tropical storm or strong tropical depression right now, with the heaviest rain and wind being over in this region here of the Philippines. Let me see if there's a map that you could see a little bit better. This one you can see a little bit better. And yeah, that you see the heaviest rain here, thunderstorms in this region. So in that region you're looking at minor damage, likely. Moderate damage could be possible. Says I went offline. Hold on. Did it go offline? No. It was just my phone, I think. Am I still live? It says stream resumed. Okay, so there was something. I don't know what exactly, but okay, yeah, it's up again. Okay, so if you missed it, I don't know if it was cut out or not, but this area is getting tropical storm force winds and possible tropical storm force winds and heavy rain. So minor damage is likely happening over here. Again, minor damage, maybe more if there's landslides with the if there's any mountains here or hills, there could be landslides and flooding. So there definitely could be some minor damage here. Maybe moderate damage can't be outruled in these areas. But for most of the Philippines, you're looking at probably minor damage from the system, if any. This area is probably receiving the most damage, and down here, as it came through here, as a tropical depression, if any areas got any tropical storm force winds. We can actually take a look at the current wind speeds right now on here. This shows the current wind speeds of systems, and yeah, you don't really see any rotation here. I mean, you see there is a curve in the wind pattern. There is, it looks like maybe over here, and over here is the center. Okay, so there is a center, but it's fairly weak. I'm pretty sure the system may not even be a tropical depression anymore, but if it is still a tropical depression, it's dying out. This storm is dying out. Again, you can see over here some strong winds along the coast of this island over here. So yeah, there might be some minor damage happening. Moderate damage can't be ruled out if there's landslides from rain and stuff like that. But this system is pretty much finishing up. We can take a look now, just to be safe, the low end forecast going 24 hours from now. And that's 17.7 knots. 17.7. That's 20.4, so I'm rounding down because it's the low end, so 20 mile per hour wind. That's almost nothing. And then over here, 29.5. 33.9, it's the high-end forecast, so I'm going to round it up to 35 miles per hour. Still not a tropical storm. So, as I said, the rotation on this thing is dying down. It shows some light rotation maybe over here, with the lowest pressure over here. The highest wind speeds that are affecting land seem to be... Is that even land? No, that's not even land. But over here, this part of the Philippines, very little, if any, damage. Likely minor damage, can't be outruled. Let's see what the rain looks like in that section. A little bit of rain. Heavier rain, maybe over here and here. So even though the system's dying down as far as being a tropical system, there might still be some heavier rain associated with the system in some isolated areas, some isolated thunderstorms as the storm moves out. Again, I think the system is on its last limbs here. Let's check out 48 hours from now. 20.9. 24.1, or I'm rounding down because it's the low one, to 20. And go to the high-end forecast. Alright, so it's showing some improved rotation. So we'll see if this thing redevelops or not, but still 26.2. I'm going to move this over here because I keep clicking there. So 26.2. 30.2, so still not a tropical storm. Only a 25 to 30 mile per hour tropical depression, if it's even still a tropical cyclone. Let's see if rain is affecting anywhere. So maybe some residual rain over here, some stray showers over here. As far as its impact to the Philippines, it should be done at this point, but we don't want to get ahead of ourselves. Let's go 72 hours from now. Let's go to the low end, 21.5. 24.7, rounding down to 20. High-end forecast, 21.3. So it's actually, the low end is actually higher than the high end, but because of rounding, it's going to be, yeah, 21.3. 24.5. So, in other words, I'd be rounding up to 25, so between 20 and 25 mile per hour, weakening, some rotation. At this point, I think it's just a regular low pressure system. Let's see, is there any rain impacting land? Very little, not much. Going into 120 hours. Okay, 25. And at this point, it's probably not a tropical cyclone anymore. I'm just going through the motions to see if it's going to redevelop at any point. 28.8, so that's going to be round down to 25. Okay, and over here you see there's basically no rotation. A little curve, but no rotation. Some stronger wind over here. It'll be interesting to see if when I round it, if it shows it as tropical storm force. But 35.7, which I think it will. 35.7 puts it at 41. So I'd round that to 45, being generous. So most likely tropical depression force winds right along the coast of this area, if it reaches that far and if it manages to maintain itself for that long. Tropical storm force winds might be possible, or maybe tropical storm force gust. Probably not so much wind, but tropical storm force gust. So you're looking at very little damage, if any. It's possible to see minor damage if it does take the high end. But let's take a look at the rain. Again, rain doesn't seem too much. It depends if this comes on land, this little section of heavy rain goes on land, then that might be something to keep a closer eye on with this system. Let's see, 102. No, I mean 96 or 120. Alright, and so yeah, at that point, It seems like it's done. It's now going off into a whole nother direction. Can't even keep track of it anymore. So yeah, this storm is finishing up. Low chance of it redeveloping. Maybe some tropical storm force winds for some of the Philippines. Right now, a tropical storm force wind gust. The system might redevelop a little bit over here, but it's not likely to become a tropical storm. There is a low chance it could be. Have tropical storm force winds at in 120 hours from now, but most likely this system is finishing up. So let's see what the real forecasts have to say on this system. Tropical depression 2. Yep, and they have it as a tropical depression, which is within our range. The wind speeds right now are 30 miles per hour with gusts up to 40 miles per hour. That's just about in our range, I believe. Yeah, I believe it was. Let's see. Let me double check. 33.8. That's 38. I'd round that to 40 because it's the high end. At the low end, it was 26.1. That puts it at 30. And yeah, that's about right. The wind speeds right now are around 30 miles an hour. And the wind gust, or the high end, is up to around 40 miles per hour. So, and most of the 40 mile per hour winds are happening on this island right over here. So you could get a good look if you know this area. Let's take a look at the satellite view. There we have our little tropical depression. So it does have some spin. It's very small. It's going to die out soon, as their forecast shows. By 3 p.m. Sunday, it's going to be dead, if it's even still around. What time frame is this? JST? I think that's this standard, this area's region here time. I don't know. Please let me know in the comments if you know. But anyways, regardless, going back now to the, let's see. Okay, so we're here, going back to GFS model. Alright, so now that we went over this storm, going back to forecast models, regions, and we did the Western Pacific. Now let's take a look at the Central Pacific. 700Z, 0. So again, we primarily want to look between here and, or probably more around here and here for tropical cyclones. So between 20 and 40 north, and between 20 north and the equator. So 10 north and 30 north, between those two regions is where you'd want to look in this basin. This area we'll check out in a little bit. Okay. I'm not really seeing anything that warrants, not seeing any tropical cyclones. Let's speed this up a little bit. Some spin over here, but it doesn't really have a lot of strength to it. Quickly dies out. Some spin over there, not really concentrated enough. So yeah, this area seems good for now, for the next couple days at least. Let's look at the Eastern Pacific, which we saw a glimpse of it just now anyways, but still. Speed this up a bit. We're watching right along the coast mostly. Again, some spin here that we saw earlier, just now, but not really concentrated. Maybe some thunderstorms in this region, rain, that might go into the United States, but not a tropical cyclone, most likely. That might change. We'll have to wait and see. But for now, it seems good, at least for the next 2 or 3 days. Let's see, now the Indian Ocean. Wait, that's not the Indian Ocean. The Indian Ocean. So over here, we actually do have a system over here that we're going to discuss. But before we do, let's see if there's anything else that might be forming here. So that's going to go on land. That's actually going to be a pretty powerful tropical cyclone that we need to keep an eye on. but we're going to get to that in a minute. Some rotation over here and over here. Not really concentrated much. Okay, so yeah, let's take a look at this system. So this is Tropical Depression 1B. Okay, it says Tropical Depression, but I'm pretty sure this is, oh no, not Tropical Depression, Tropical Cyclone. Okay, so it was upgraded to a Tropical Cyclone. Usually when it just has one, or a number, usually that means it's just a tropical depression, but it has been upgraded to a tropical cyclone, so it is over tropical depression strength, at least tropical storm, maybe hurricane strength. We're going to see in a minute. So 46.3 knots for the low end. That's 53.3, it's the low end, so that's going to be rounded down to 50 miles per hour on the low end forecast. The low end forecast does not show any land being impacted, but let's see, maybe the high end forecast will show land being impacted. Okay, 60.3, 60.3, 69.4, rounded up to 70. So a tropical storm system with, alright, time to get Google Maps out. I can try and pronounce the countries, but as far as the exact cities, that's a lost cause as of now. Anyways, okay, so you have tropical storm force winds reaching Myanmar, Burma, and you have tropical storm force winds reaching this area, Andaman and Nicobar Islands. Maybe getting tropical storm force winds and some tropical storm force winds coming inland from here. So minor damage likely in these areas and these areas, just from the wind aspect. Let's see with the rain, how the rain's looking. So light rain over here. So again, over here, probably minor damage. Over here, where there's tropical storm force winds, minor damage likely. Over here, tropical depression force winds. So likely, very little damage is likely right now. Minor damage might be possible with the heavy rain depending on the terrain. Now that is for right now what is happening now. But as for what's going to be taking place in the next 24 hours, different story. Okay, so let's take a look at this. 47.8. For the low end, 55. Okay, so 55 mile per hour tropical storm. The low end forecast shows it staying out to sea, and you're going to see in a minute why this is pretty unreliable. You know what, actually, because this thing is happening so close, you should probably do a more precise timeline as opposed to doing 0 and 24, because then after that, at 48, it's gone. So let's do in 6 hours from now. So right now, this is where it is. In 6 hours from now, 45.4. 52, round that down to 50. So 50 mile per hour tropical storm. Let's go on to the high end, and that's 61.9. That's 71.2. That would be rounded up to 75. So a tropical storm or a low-end Category 1 hurricane. The Category 1 hurricane force winds, if any, within the next 6 hours would probably happen isolated in this area. It would not be hitting land. But tropical storm force winds will be well engulfing this area and over here. So minor damage likely from here all the way over to here, all the way down to here, with moderate damage more likely over here where the tropical storm force winds are a little bit stronger. Let's see about rain as well, because that's a factor too. It's still showing light rain, maybe heavy rain just starting to come up to the coast. So maybe in this area more moderate damage could be possible. Looks like still it's pretty light rain for the most part. Heavier rain over here maybe, pockets of drier rain. So you're looking at minor damage within the next 6 hours. Alright, so let's go to 12 hours from now to low end forecast 50.4. 58, that'd be rounded out to 55, so 50 mile per hour tropical storm is on the low end forecast. The high end forecast 68.3 is 78.6, so that would be rounded up to 80 mile per hour, so a tropical storm or mid-range category 1 hurricane, so likely a low-end category 1. It usually falls in between those ranges. Tropical storm force winds from this region up to here, down all the way to here, over here, and down to here, and of course the areas in between there. A little bit stronger than our tropical storm force winds right over here, and tropical storm force winds starting to calm down a little bit over here as the storm moves towards Myanmar. Hurricane force winds still offshore, again in this region from over here to about here, the areas in between, and over here minor damage can still continue within the next 12 hours. Now as far as moderate damage, we have to take a look at the other factors such as rain. Heavier rain starting to come inland over here, so more moderate damage could be possible with flooding and storm surge definitely as the storm comes in. Because of the shape of this area, storm surge will definitely be a problem with the wind blowing in which direction? This one? No, counterclockwise. Yes, because we're in the northern hemisphere. So the wind is blowing this way, so that means the water with the storm surge is circulating this way. And look at the shape of this. It's going to just draw the water right in. So minor damage to moderate damage is possible over here, but as of right now, for the most part, minor damage for this region of Myanmar here, and for these islands here, which I've already forgotten the name of. Sorry if you live there. Okay, so let's look at now 18 hours from now. 53 for the low end. 61, so that will be rounded to 60. So strengthening still. Look at the high end. On the low end, we see tropical storm force winds just starting to come close to the coast. With the high end forecast, 74.7. That's 74.7. 86, that would be rounded to 90. So again, still tropical storm, high end category 1 hurricane, so likely a mid-range to low-end, mid to lower range category 1 hurricane. Strongest hurricane force winds are right in this section here. Tropical storm force winds from here down to here, over here, the areas in between. Stronger winds, especially along the coastline. Storm surge might be starting to come in now in some of these areas, especially over here. And over here the water will start to get rough. Tropical storm force winds should be finished over here within the next 18 hours. But minor damage is still likely to take place over here, with moderate damage possible, especially along this region here, where the winds will be a little bit stronger and the storm surge will be taking root. Let's look at the rain forecast. Okay, so it's showing lighter rain, heavier rain up to north here, really heavy rain over here, minor rain continuing in these islands over here. So the rain is starting to come inland. Flash flooding is possible. Flooding is possible. Storm surge is almost certain to happen with this storm. And perhaps in these regions, even though the winds are in tropical storm force, with the heavy rain, there could be mudslides and flooding as a result. And possibly severe thunderstorms. So we look 24 hours from now. Low end 47.8. That shows it at 55 mile per hour tropical storm. The winds just coming up to the coast. So this is where I start to rely more on the high end forecast, because most storms do not, and this shows it with almost every single storm. The low end forecast shows almost no wind on land, which is basically, that doesn't happen, in most storms. So in the high end forecast, even if the wind speeds might be a little bit higher than what may actually happen, as far as the range of the winds that do actually occur, that tends to be a lot more accurate. So 24 hours from now, the low end shows tropical storm force winds just offshore, with the high end forecast 67.1. That's 77.2, so that'd be rounded to 80 mile per hour winds right in this section over here. Tropical storm force winds extending from here all the way up to here, down to here, down here, and the areas in between this region. This area is already free of tropical storm force winds. Stronger tropical storm force winds again happening over here. Storm surge will be occurring around these regions by this time. Minor storm surge, stronger storm surge will be occurring right around this region here, most likely. I'm not a meteorologist, so please confirm with your local officials what the weather is actually predicted to be. Alright, MSLP and precip. So this shows the rain dying down with the storm as it weakens, with, pretty constant rain so far as we've seen throughout this whole region, and rain dying down in the islands over here. So flooding could be possible, even though the rain isn't particularly heavy. There are pockets of heavy rain, but because the rain is so steady for the next 24 hours or more, that's why we should have some concern over flooding, and especially along the coastline with the flash flooding and the storm surge. In 30 hours from now, 41 knots, 41 knots. That would be 47, rounded down to 45. So still tropical storm force wind just reaching this island, and this part just dead, according to the low end, which I don't buy that at all. There will be tropical storm force winds even here, according to the low end, even though it's not showing it. And according to the high end, 68.1. That's 78.4, or rounded to 80 mile per hour. So likely a strong tropical storm, maybe a low end category 1 hurricane. Strongest winds will be right over here, so moderate damage is possible over here because of hurricane force winds. Actually, it's likely. Moderate damage likely in this region. Minor damage is likely from here all the way to here, maybe even here, down to here, here, and areas in between. Moderate damage is likely to occur between here. Major damage can't be outruled if this becomes stronger, and depending on how heavy the rain is. And with the minor damage, moderate damage is likely in the red areas as well. If the hurricane force winds extend further, and depending again on the rain. And we can see very heavy rain over here. So mudslides, flooding, definitely a problem. Storm surge, definitely a big problem, especially over here in this region of the storm. Some storm surge might be possible over here, maybe over here, but mostly in this region right where the eye of the storm is, making landfall in about 30 hours from now. This part of Myanmar, tropical storm force wind should be dying out. In 36 hours, the low end, 20.5. That'd be 23 rounded down to 20. So let's hope that the low end is correct, and that by this point it's only 20 miles per hour, and that it just dies out really, really quickly. The high end also has it dying out pretty quickly. 56.5 mile per hour tropical storm. 56.5 knot, which is 65 mile per hour tropical storm. Over here, the eye really, dying out. But there is still well-defined rotation, so it's probably still going to be classified as a tropical storm. And minor damage is likely from here all the way up to here, 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 and here. And moderate damage more likely, especially in the red area, but definitely minor damage throughout this area. Again, let's take a look at the rain. Okay, still heavy rain, so mudslides are definitely possible depending on the geography. Flooding is definitely a problem. Storm surge will still be continuing around here, but it will be starting to lighten up within 36 hours. within, let's see, 42 hours, the storm should be gone. The remnants of it, 38.3, 44.1, so 45, let's say. 45 mile per hour tropical storm force winds isolated in this area, but for the most part, within 42 hours, this storm should be done. One thing we want to take a look at also is, let's go back to forecast models, regions, Indian Ocean, precip and moisture, 24-hour accumulated precip. So over the course of this storm, you're looking at, okay, let me zoom in here. Okay, that's not zooming in. So we see here some bits of yellow, which over here, this is millimeters of rain. So let me go on my phone and translate these millimeters into inches. Oh, no. Okay, so let's say we see some purple in there, some reds, and some light yellow. So maybe let's say 300. Just to see, 300 millimeters of rain. That would be almost about a foot of rain. That's a lot of rain, not to mention the storm surge that's going to be coming in also along the coastline. So that's a very dangerous situation. Some areas could see up to a foot of rain. So these areas really need to be on watch for the system and how much damage it might have the capability of causing just from the rain itself and the hurricane force winds. I would definitely say moderate damage is likely in Myanmar. Major damage is possible in some areas that get a foot of rain or more, and that get the storm surge that will be accompanied by the storm. The islands over here are likely to see minor damage. These areas are likely to see minor to moderate damage. Maybe major damage right in this area here is not outrulable yet. Okay, so that storm is forecasted. Any other regions to take a look at? The Southwest Pacific. Take a look at this, just to see if there's anything else. Okay, so I'm not seeing anything. So at least safe for the next couple of days, as of now. So that's good. Okay, so in review, we didn't even take a look at the wind speeds of the storm from this one. Well, we'll do that now. Okay, yeah, so you can see some stronger winds. The darker red areas are the hurricane force. The green areas are like tropical storm force, I think. Oh no, those are like tropical storm force winds. Let's see what the official forecasters say about this storm. Tropical Cyclone 1. And yeah, it shows it as a tropical storm going through here, which is within the range that we forecasted between tropical storm, category 1 hurricane. So according to their forecast, with tropical storm force winds in this region, that would mean that the damage would be minor, likely minor. Moderate damage is possible, especially if it does become a category 1 hurricane. Then moderate damage would become likely, and major damage would become possible in some areas. But as of right now, according to the officials' forecast, we're looking at a tropical storm making landfall 12 a.m. Monday, UTC time. I think that's the local time here. I don't know, but please let me know in the comments if you're watching what areas this time is for. I think it's for this area. And if you're in the comments, please say hello. This forecast is finishing up. So, in review of the forecast for today, the areas that we want to watch are, take this down. So we have a small tropical depression over here, if it even still is. That storm is dying out. We also have a tropical storm over here that has the potential to become a hurricane and is going to be impacting Myanmar. Maybe even this area here should keep a watch in the long term of the system, but it's expected to die out pretty quickly once it makes landfall, so this area shouldn't have too much to worry about. There's an island over here, these islands that need to pay attention to the system at least for the next 24 hours. This area is going to get impacted between 24 and 48 hours. And then this area seems good for the next 2 or 3 days at least. After this storm is gone, this area looks like it's good for the next 2 or 3 days at least. This area also seems like it'll be good for the next 2 or 3 days, roughly, at least. Even though the forecast had shown for the next 2 weeks, that often changes. So at least we could say for the next 2 or 3 days, probably for the next week or so. But as far as the next 2 weeks, I wouldn't, rely on that. This area also seems pretty good. And Siri just turned on. This area also seems good for the next 2 or 3 days at least. It's not hurricane season, so most likely for longer. Let's hope it stays that way. And so that's it for this forecast on Meteorologist Without Credentials. Thank you for watching. Again, by the time that you watch this video, or if you're watching it now, the forecast may have changed and likely has changed. Some of the events may have already transpired or are transpiring now if you're watching this a day after I posted it or 2 days after. Please stay safe. Please be sure to check with official forecasters for this information. I'm not a professional meteorologist, but this is just to show you how you can forecast your own weather. When you think a storm is coming, you can use the same resources that I did to forecast your own weather. I'm not a professional, so any information I provide, once again, should be confirmed by personal research from official sources. Again, I used a couple of websites that I showed in the beginning that you could check out again. And as always, whether severe or mild weather, stay safe and stay updated.